back in the day when I was started out, you know, you were either a movie writer or a television writer, and really the brass ring was movies. I mean, you know, and so, you know, you just wanted to be television, television. You know, it's movies. Movies is, and and I sort of bought into it, and you kind of like, well, if you write for television, you can't really, you're not going to get into movies. You know, it's sort of like once there is a, you know, there's a steel curtain between these two disciplines or whatever. And so I was trying really to write for movies, and but when I got the opportunity on The White Shadow, it was like, you know, pride had nothing to do with it. It was like, I don't want to be that guy in the middle of the ocean when the love boat is, you know, at a, I can't get to it. So I jumped at it, and of course I learned over time. Another thing I learned is I learned that all the membranes between all the vectors, all the delivery systems are permeable. It was bullshit. It was just, and then of course looking back at it, Clint Eastwood, who I got to work with on Spielberg's show, and Steve McQueen. I mean, all these guys came out of television. It was like, who made up these rules? You know, now I'm sure it's the same thing. Well, it used to be if you write a sitcom, you can't get into drama, and if you write a drama, you can't get it. I mean, it was like, you know, it was so
buckets, yeah.
Yeah, and it kept you from trying things. It kept you from doing things because you thought you were going to be pigeonholed. Now, listen, there is a degree of that that's true in anything in life. I mean, if you're a real estate lawyer and you want to be a criminal attorney, you know, you're a lawyer, but it's like a different, you know, but you can move. And you know, and I see it with young people now. Now, of course, things are all digital, and now things are, you know, if you write something for telephone, maybe they tell you you can't write it for a television. I mean, I don't know what they're saying. No, or maybe those things are sort of dissolving, and the culture in general has become less sort of stratified. And so it isn't just specific to the entertainment industry. But back in that day, it was really, you thought that was it. And I've worked in movies, and I've directed a motion picture, and it was only because of my success in television. It was the only reason it happened. It wasn't a negative. It was the positive. If I wouldn't have had that, I never would have had that opportunity. Right. So what it is, you know, other than sort of buying into the bullshit, it's just sort of realizing that the membranes are there and they're permeable, and, you know, things filter through them in both directions. It's not a one-way street, in all different kinds of directions. And Spielberg was someone who also said that and always acknowledged it. I mean, you know, he would say the difference between television and movies, or he once said to me, was the difference between this and this. You know, and of course the other thing was at that time, the televisions were square and now they're rectangle. Well, movie theaters were rectangle, and so when televisions were square, you had to have close-ups of people because two shots didn't look quite as interesting as they looked on a rectangle. But now that all TVs and movie theaters are the same shape and the same format, whatever the numbers are anymore, I don't remember, 1.85 or something, but then also the way they were shot became similar in a certain way. So a lot of, and it goes back to not knowing too much or not knowing enough. You know, it was not knowing enough was sort of listening to what other people said, but then also trying things, writing a play instead of writing spec scripts. You know, I didn't know. I mean, that this was the way you get in or not get in, so there was an advantage and there was a disadvantage. I obviously now most kids who go into this, or a lot of them, come out of film school, and you learn a lot of stuff in film school. And I've taught at film school. I've taught at NYU, and I taught at UCLA in the graduate school. And there's good things, and there are things that are not so good. And you know, so but we all have our own journey, and my journey sort of started where it started.